Well, we have a formidable actor for you next, from stage and screen, from children's TV and, of course, Doctor Who. Please welcome to the stage Bernard Cribbins.
You're probably wondering why I've asked you all here today, and so am I. Hello, good afternoon.
How's your weekend been so far?
Sorry, what?
How has your weekend been so far?
I think the sound in here is terrible, isn't it?
It echoes
What's
a little
that? What's
bit.
that Dalek doing here?
He escaped. He's come to see you.
It's nice. I might nick that later. It's been fine, actually. Yes. We had a bit of a problem getting here because of traffic, as usual, but anyway, we made it with about 15 minutes late, that's all. Are you all having a good time? You've come up here to sit down, haven't you? I know, yes, not fed up with walking about. Right. I'll shut up now and let this lady take charge.
Not at all. We want you to talk lots, because we have lots to talk about. I mean, certainly having been in the business for decades, and you must have seen some massive changes in filmmaking and drama. Is there any particularly memorable sort of moments in history that you can think of, watching on TV or in the filmmaking process?
Oh, goodness, what a question. Yes, I have been involved. I mean, I think some of the first films I did were black and white. Mm-hmm. Things like Two-Way Stretch with Peter Sellers, bless him. Most happy memories with that. And I do have unhappy memories of films as well. I was doing a film in the Negev Desert with Peter Cushing and Ursula Andress. Excuse me, I'll just have a moment there. Yeah. And there was a scene. This is a silly story, really, to tell you at the beginning of
We love silly stories, don't we?
There was a scene where Peter and Johnny Richardson and myself were fighting off the Bedouin who were charging at us on camels. And I was kneeling down with a rifle and going bang, click, click, bang, click, click, Lee Enfield rifle. And we did one take, and that was fine. And before we did the next take, they had to replace all the charges in the sand to make little bullet splashes. You know what I mean? Boom, 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 in front of us. And we went off and had a glass of water or whatever. It was about, I think it was 40 degrees. It was really 30 miles out in the desert. Anyway, they said, right, here we go again. We went out, and I was kneeling down, and I'm going bang, bang, and suddenly, right underneath me, one of the charges went off and missed my tackle by, I'm serious, 2 inches, and hit me on the left buttock, and I got 43 holes there, and I would have been dead if it had been to the right. I really would. I wouldn't be here. And I went, and oh dear, I shouted. And ran off the set, obviously, and one of the stunt guys in charge of us, Jerry Crampton, who's also up there now with Sellers, God bless him, I dropped my kecks in front of everybody, of course, and I was pouring with blood, and he was ladling off the claret like that, you see. And one of the other stuntmen was sitting there, and he looked across, he said, I always knew your bottle would go, Cribbins. Anyway, I went to hospital, and they sort of took out what they could. But when I got home, I had to be visiting the doctor to get little bits. I said, there's something else working its way out. So he would lie me down and pull out a bit more aluminium. The thing that went off, the charge, was a small thing with, I can't remember the explosive, but it's what you use to detonate a big plastic charge. It's literally a trigger, that's all. And they're about as big as your finger. And but they're totally metal and explosive, and they go boof, all over the place. That was a very unhappy memory of an otherwise very happy film. One of the nicest things about that film was going snorkeling with Ursula. Most evenings when we finished work, we used to go off on the reef down at Eilat and just have a creep around for half an hour, look at all the lovely fish there. It was amazing. Peter Cushing, incidentally, was a great sportsman in his youth. He'd been a rugby player and loved to be active. And I said to him one day, he was a great swimmer. I'd seen him swimming in the evening when we got back from the work. And I said, have you done any snorkeling? No, I haven't, old boy. No. I said, oh, well, in that case, I'd taken my kit with me and I borrowed another set and put the mask on him and the tube and everything else and, made sure it was fitting. And off we went, off a little jetty where the boat used to come in. And beneath that were a lot of fish that used to hang around the jetty structure. And there was a thing called a lionfish, which some of you may know. It's only about this big, and it's got beautiful sort of butterfly wings, black and yellow stripes, and it is deadly poison if you get stung by one of the bits on the end of the fins. And I told him about this. Anyway, we went down, and he was very happily stooging around about 8 foot down, and suddenly he saw one of these things and turned to me underwater and started talking to me. And he's got a tube in his back, and that was one of my happiest memories of Cushing, underwater, trying to tell me that he'd seen a very lovely fish. Yeah, very sweet man he was. Yes. Any particular questions from anyone?
Fantastic. Well, if you guys want to line up, there's a mic on this side, another one on that side. You can line up and we'll get to your questions, certainly. One thing I'm curious about, though, because it's not just an acting career you've had, you were actually quite successful in the charts back in the 60s. What was it like being a pop star at that time?
It was fabulous, absolutely fabulous. I'd been doing a show at the Fortune Theatre, and I had a couple of songs in that. And dear George Martin, who has also left us now, a lovely, lovely man, was then a recording A&R, artist and repertoire recording for Parlophone. And he used to go around all the musical shows in London, and if there was anything that could be made into a record, he would do so. And he came and saw us, and it was arranged that I was going to record a thing called Folk Song, which was a silly yokel-type ditty, and a little love song I did with Joyce Blair. Anyway, we did that in the Abbey Road studios, and Folk Song got into the charts and surprised everybody, including myself. And George said, well, let's try and get some more. So we talked to the guys that had written that, Ted Dix and Miles Rudge, and they came up with Hole in the Ground and Right Said Fred. And after that, we put together an album, and I have the happiest of memories working in that number 3 studio before the Beatles got in there, just before George got the Beatles, and which he mentioned in a radio interview some long time ago now. But Hole in the Ground was also a bit memorable because Noel Coward was doing his Desert Island Discs, and when he got to the end of he'd chosen Hole in the Ground as one of the records. And when he got to the end, Roy Plumley said, if you could only take one record, which would you take? And he said, I'd take Hole in the Ground by Mr. Cribbins. And he said, really, why? He said, I could walk up and down the beach translating it into French. But that was a lovely memory of working in musicals in the West End. I've done quite a few musicals in the West End, actually. The last one was, what was the last one now? Oh, Anything Goes, I think, with Elaine Page, and John Barrowman joined us on that as well. That was great. We did that for about a year, actually. But musicals, you can go in feeling absolutely rotten with half a dose of flu and everything else, and as soon as the overture kicks off, it's gone, and you're just wonderful until the end, and then you go, and drop down again. Yeah, I love them.
Well, in terms of that, with your musical background, does that help you when you're doing things like the children's TV shows?
I don't know. I haven't really got a musical background. It just sort of, it was thrust upon me, I didn't do any music when I was a lad. I used to sing hymns in church, and that was about it. But I think everything that you do in this business sometimes will be of use when you're working on projects later and later and later, Mm-hmm. No, I've had a very happy time doing what I do. People are leaving. It's not that bad, is it?
They're coming in, I think. They're coming forward.
I know, yeah. Yeah.
And so at the moment, I know that you're filming a children's TV show, All Jack's Boat, and they they always say don't work with animals and with children. So has that led to any mishaps?
I'm doing
all?
both at the moment, yeah. Well, actually not at the moment. We're not doing any at the moment. We finished shooting, a little while ago now. But they're being rerun the whole time, and they are hugely popular. I've got a whole pile of cards that children keep writing in. Can I have a card from you and the dog, you know? Story of the dog's rather nice, actually, because when I heard I was about to start on this, the producers in Manchester rang me and said, you need a dog? And I said, well, we've just had to get rid of our old terrier. She was 15 and rather poorly, so she went. And I said, I do know another dog. They said, yeah. And this belonged to a friend of mine, an actor. And he had a hawk, and we used to go chasing rabbits with this, you see. The dog is a Hungarian wire-haired Vizsla, a hunting dog, very well trained, and she would work to my signals as well as Paul's. She would work to vocal signals and also hand signals. You could go, and she'd stop. You do that, she'd lie down. And that is remarkable. You know, she was very highly trained. So I told the BBC about this, and they said, oh, well, let's have a look at her. So Paul, who was an actor, remember, out of work at the time, he took her up to Manchester, and she did all the tests with the cameras and the green screen and everything else. She passed with flying colours and got the job, and he got the job as Ernie, the fisherman, as well. So it was a great result. And the dog was on, I think, £1,000 a week.
Wow.
100 for the dog a day, and 100 for the handler, so that was all right.
That's not bad.
It was wonderful, yeah.
Well,
and she is, well, she's the show, really. I mean, this is why children write in, can we have a picture of the dog and you?
Well, we've got some questions for you, and I'm sure you guys want to ask Bernard about Doctor Who as well. If you want to start on this side for me. A little bio over here. Do you have a question?
So, out of all the episodes you did in Doctor Who, which was your favourite?
I can hardly hear you. Come up in the front and talk to me here. This would be much better.
Seriously?
He said, of all the episodes you did of Doctor Who, what was your favourite?
My favourite episode? I don't have one, actually. I don't have one at all. I enjoyed the whole... My first episode of Doctor Who was with Peter Cushing again, Daleks Invade Earth 2015. That was a proper film, a cinema film. That was great fun. I've got a nice Dalek story there too. But the one I did with David Tennant was an absolute joy. Every day I enjoyed. I used to run to work. And if they wanted me back tomorrow, I'd say yes, yes please. It was great fun working with David and with Catherine and everybody else on that, you know. And it was such a success. It was a lovely storyline and it worked very well. Did you enjoy it?
Yeah.
Oh, you sounded doubtful then. You went,
No,
I hated it.
I actually never saw the Peter Cushing movies. I've never seen them.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that
He hasn't
properly.
seen the Peter Cushing movie.
Sorry?
He hasn't seen the initial movie, the Doctor Who movie.
Oh, no, the movie. No, that was a long, long time before you were born, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I still watch classic Doctor Who.
My favourite, did you say?
No, I still watch classic Doctor Who.
Oh, yes, yeah. That funny story from the film we were doing, Peter Cushing and I had been captured by the Daleks, and we hadn't really met them in the film because you film bits, you know, the page 25, and then you go back to page 4, and, you know, you're all over the place. And we were being marched up the ramp of the spaceship, and there was the head Dalek coming down, and the head Dalek had inside it an Australian, and I'll remember his name in a minute. I can't think of his name at the moment. But anyway, he was in there, and he had a line. So he's trundling down the ramp, we're coming in, and he said, "You will stand still or you will be exterminated." And Peter and I stopped and started laughing. And we were sitting there with our legs crossed with this Australian Dalek, talking like that. And eventually the director, Gordon Fleming, got very cross and said, "Shut up, Cribbins, come on, Mr. Cushing, come on." You know, but it was just this Dalek saying, "You will be exterminated." Bob Jewell, that was his name.
Another question over this side.
Hi. recently it was announced that Jodie Whittaker's going to be the next Doctor, and her companions are Bradley Walsh and some other people. I was wondering whether you thought they'd be, how good they'd be, basically.
The next Doctor Who?
Yeah.
I haven't heard anything about this. I didn't. Truly, I didn't know. I didn't know anything about it. I thought they were going to have a lady, weren't they?
They are.
That's
Jodie
right,
Whittaker.
They are having one, a lady. You see, I'm out of touch with it, really. Who's it going to be? Do you know?
Jodie Whittaker.
Right. Good. I think it's good. I think it's great that a lady's going to do it. I really do, because we've had a lot of gentlemen and they've all been successful, but. You know, I think a lady might give it another kick again. Great, super. Yeah.
Okay, a question on this side.
What was it like to work with Peter Sellers?
How long have you got? It was great. Peter, in the days I worked with him on Two-Way Stretch and Wrong Arm of the Law, again with Lionel Jeffries, David Lodge, and a lot of heavyweight faces around, you know. And Peter in those days was a very hard-working, very funny, goon-type gentleman. And we had so many laughs. It was wonderful work. Used to rush to get there at 7 o'clock in the morning just to start laughing, you know. It was only later that we heard stories about how difficult he was and all the rest of it, once he became a big film star, you know. But when I worked with him, he was an absolute joy, and I won't have a word against him. He was great, absolutely. There was a funny story I've just remembered. David Lodge was playing, we were all convicts, and he was playing an ex-safe cracker, and he was demonstrating to a lot of prisoners. This scene was written in the film, and he's saying, now when you want to blow up this sort of safe, you see, you've got to drill a little hole there and a little hole there, and then you put the gel ignite in, and he had like a page and a half describing how to blow a safe. And he got it wrong twice, and he's going, oh, and they're saying, come on, David, let's go, well, one more take, please, yeah. And they start the other take, and he's going through beautifully until almost the end. And Sellers, who was sitting in a chair having a cup of coffee about 50 feet away, he suddenly went, hello, Min. And David just fell off the chair laughing, and that... We've got to go again now, and that was it. But we laughed and laughed on that. It was wonderful.
Brilliant. We've got time for 2 more questions, I'm afraid. So this side first.
Hi. I was wondering, in your when you were playing Wilf, you had kind of playing Donna's grandfather, and then in End of Time, you were kind of playing the main companion rather than a featured role. Did you kind of feel that this was 2 very different experiences, and did you prefer one over the other?
No, it was all part of the same gentleman, that's all, you know, the characteristics that you saw when I was working with my granddaughter were carried on. He was a very caring, kind, compassionate man, you know. I loved him, he was great. I'd love to do Wilf again, yeah.
We love Wilf too, right?
Yeah. Somebody have a word, I'll go and look after that young lady, what's about to start, yeah.
Okay, final question on this side.
Hello. What was it now? Yeah. I've forgotten it already.
Are you wearing a Doctor Who costume, sir? I can't quite see. You are?
So,
well, you should know your bloody lines then. That's all I should say. I'm sorry, go on.
Yeah. In the scene from End of Time where Wilf's in the booth and David's ranting away, what was the acting mindset going into that when David's going to sacrifice himself for Wilf?
Yeah. That was a very involved question. It was a very nice scene. Very nice, well-written scene. And so many people say, you know, you are responsible for the Doctor's death. It's not true. He sacrificed himself to save Dave, save the old fella, you know. That was it. That was the whole point of it. And it was a lovely scene, I thought. I enjoyed all the stuff I did with David. We had a lot of laughs off stage and then lovely work when we were actually working together. Yeah.
What would you say your favourite Wilfred trait is?
I can't remember now. No, truly, I can't. I mean, there were so many nice bits. The whole thing was a joy. And working with Jacqueline King, too, as my daughter, you know, she was great. She was so good in that. And the scenes where David is explaining that she's going to, you know, be strange and everything else because she's been up there. And no, Jax was great. I enjoyed it. I really, you know, I've got so many happy memories.
Well, we thought you were fantastic in it as well. Thank you so much for talking to us. Everyone give a massive round of applause to our guest, Peter Cushing.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And I hope you enjoy the rest of your day here. I've forgotten what this place was like. It's amazing, isn't it? 3 aircraft hangars put together. It's an extraordinary place. Thank you very much.